I'm Shona Martin, and I'm the CEO of the Walkley Foundation, and I'm thrilled to be hosting this information session regarding an exciting journalism opportunity for young folk looking to get their foot in the door in the exciting world of broadcast journalism. The Jacoby-Walkley Scholarship was founded by award-winning producer and journalist Anita Jacoby in honor of her father, Philip Jacoby. And it's an opportunity like no other. From 60 Minutes, Sunday to today, Anita has forged a strong and illustrious career with the Nine Network. So it seems only fitting that this scholarship secures the winner an intensive work placement at the network. First of all, let me start with a question for you, Anita. When did you realise that you wanted to work in the media, and how did that journey lead you to your career at Nine?
Well, Shona, first of all, thank you for hosting this session, and thank you to the Walkley Foundation and to Dan and Amelia to be on board, and hi to everyone. I actually developed a passion for journalism from about the age of 15. I used to sit around talking about all these big world issues with my father when I was very young. And it just prompted me to want to jump on a plane and go and tell stories all over the world, which of course I was fortunate in my career to be able to do. And when I left school, I tried to pursue a career in journalism. I went to regional television. I set up a small production company. I created some television, and I ended out at Channel 9 as my first job at Channel 9 was supervising producer of the Today Show, which means I was 2IC of the breakfast show that you see now. And I will just say one thing about breakfast shows: it's live television. It's like a high wire act. It couldn't be better training for a young broadcast journalist.
Dan, you've been on the judging panel for the Jacoby-Walkley Scholarship, and you've also got your own broad-ranging career in the media. So how did you become involved in this scholarship, and how valuable do you think it is?
Oh, look, well, let me tell you, I got involved because one of my great mentors and leaders in my career has been Anita Jacoby, who shepherded a large part of my career from about 10 years ago when we worked on a TV show called Hungry Beast. Anita was one of the bright lights and the guiding hands to make sure we were on the right track with the kind of stories we were creating.
Thank you, Dan. I'm paying you well, aren't I?
My first job at Nine was in the comedy department. I worked for the Funniest Home Videos show on in the same cottage as the Sunday program and 60 Minutes. So I would see it, Anita Jacoby stomp through the cottage at Channel 9 and tell people what's what, and also huge luminaries in journalism would walk through that cottage, and everyone at Australia's Funniest Home Videos knew just exactly who the most important people were in that cottage, and it was the journalists. It was the people who told the stories, who went and found the stories and told the stories. And I've been lucky enough to be a judge on this panel for about 5 years, since about 2019.
Journalism is very much a career that you learn so much on the job. So being catapulted into the Nine newsrooms is, such a great opportunity. And eavesdropping, when I was a young journalist, I just loved listening in and hearing what those senior journalists were talking about. And this really takes you right in there, so that you're
particularly in the lift. If you can get in the lift with the senior journalist, so that's the place for a quick pitch. Pretty pitch right there.
Now, putting your judge's hat on now, what are the key things that you look for when you're assessing the scholarship submissions?
Honestly, we are looking for great yarns well told, looking for people who are curious about the world. We want to find people who are trying to express something that not many people know. I want to learn something when I'm reading through the packet, something that makes me go, wow, I didn't know that, or wow, that is a new take on that, or wow, how come we not hearing about this story in the mainstream media? If you've got a great nose for a story, this is definitely something you want to apply for, because you are basically trying to entertain some of Australia's best brains on journalism. So you've got to have a great story and be curious. We're looking for curiosity and storytelling. That's the fundamentals.
Now, for those who are lucky enough to get into the final round of this, there's actually an interview process. Would you like to tell people a little bit about that?
It's really great. We make people close their eyes and touch their nose with their eyes closed, and there's a lot of hoops you got to jump through. No, not at all. Yeah, it's a very fun process. I don't know about you, Anita, but I love the interviews because not only do we get to put faces to names, but we also get to see just how enthusiastic people are for the art of storytelling, just how curious people are, and just how excited they are to kind of work within the broadcast medium as well. And that's
I totally get that. I love seeing up and coming, people right on the cusp of actually creating a career, and then seeing that journey as they actually blossom once they've got that job. It's amazing. It's a great experience.
And also the names that we meet in those interviews are people that we see around now, like we see in the media industry now. Like there's a young guy called Jack Nyhoff. He was the lead at Ticker News after he went through the judging process, and then went on to work for SCA and Nine anyway. There's a young bloke called William Johnson. He was a big Newcastle journo, really sniffing out stories around Williamtown. Super interesting character, and is still writing stories today. And then Zathia Bazir, who is now a news cadet at ABC News, and she actually won the JNI, Judith Neilson Institute and Walkley Scholarship, after she applied for the Jacoby Scholarship. She scored so high that people at the Walkers were like, hey, you know what, you should probably apply for this one.
What can we tell them to make their application stand out? What are the real, top tips from both of you, Dan and Anita?
Look, I don't know about you, Anita, but I'm quite happy to not read an application that says, I want to read the 6 o'clock bulletin. Like that's, if your application doesn't say that, you're off to a great head start. So if you've put that in your application, just delete the words Peter Overton out of the first sentence, and just tell us about what you're curious about. Tell us about the stories. Tell us about the yarns. That's what we want to hear. What drives your passion as a storyteller?
Yes, I agree, Dan. It's all about storytelling. It's what I went back to in the beginning. It's about the ideas that you want to pursue and the reasons why you'd want to tell them. I would give one hint though. Please, no spelling mistakes. I mean, to me, I'm a pedant. Accuracy is everything. So when I see spelling mistakes or bad English, I think, not off to a great start.
And look, to me, it doesn't matter because I'm dyslexic. So, whatever, what you won't score down from me. You won't score down.
Yes, but Anita's on the panel too. So
and let me tell you, Anita's the names on the award, so she's got a lot to say. Yeah.
That's true. Now, Amelia, how did you first hear about the Jacoby-Walkley Scholarship?
I always knew, similar to Anita, that I always wanted to do journalism, and I made it very clear throughout my university degree that broadcast was where I wanted to end up. And I'd made a lot of great relationships with my tutors and my lecturers, and luckily they had my back as well, and continued to encourage me. And it was actually a tutor who had seen the email from the Walkley Foundation advertising the scholarship, and he just said, I think you should apply for this. I think you've got a good chance, and even if you don't get it, it's just a great experience to go through. So I actually have to credit it to my university lecturer. He helped me out a lot.
So now tell us about your experience then at Nine. What happened?
Well, it was definitely a whirlwind. I'm actually a Melbourne girl, so I moved up to Sydney for the experience. I started off in the social media team on my first week, and then I moved to news. And luckily enough in news, I was able to attend the Chris Dawson verdict, which was just, as somebody who listened to the podcast and was heavily invested in that, that was just, I couldn't have asked for anything more. As a true crime junkie, I was heavily invested in that case and I loved it. I then moved to the Today Show and again had an amazing experience there. And on my last day, actually, the Queen passed away on my Friday on the last day. So again, had a massive day in the newsroom and got to actually produce my own segments for that at that point, because I'd had enough experience by then that they trusted me and they gave me the opportunity to actually produce, which was great. From there, I had 2 weeks at a current affair and as the Queen had just passed, it was a little bit of an odd time in the newsroom because everybody had gone overseas to cover stories over there. So again, they said, this is kind of the perfect opportunity for you to have a bit of extra time really to work on some stories, you know, call some talent, dig out some yarns that you think are worth it, and I guess chase and see if anything can come of it. And luckily I was able to work with 2 of the current affair reporters and some of the producers over there as well, and put up 2 stories by the end of my 2 weeks, and write some online copy for that as well, which was great. And then I spent a month at 60, as Anita said, is, you know, part of the scholarship as well. So got to work alongside some of the senior producers there. And actually I've been watching the show recently, and some of the stories I was working on back in, you know, September, October last year have now only been going to air now. So it just, it's amazing to see that. It's amazing to see that something that you worked on, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago is now going to air now. And I think that just shows how, I guess you have to do your due diligence as a journalist and make sure that you put in the time and effort, and then it will get to air eventually. But it was an amazing experience. And I think, as Dan was saying, you know, you're in the elevator with some pretty high up journalists, and there's your opportunity there to talk to them and I guess pick their brain and ask the questions that you've always wanted to know but never been able to, get that firsthand experience from people like them. And it was just an amazing experience. And for anybody who's listening today, please apply for it, because it's honestly changed my career already in a very short period of time. And I know that I wouldn't actually be where I am today in Melbourne for a current affair without it. So it's been amazing.
Well, you know, thank you for explaining that. If you haven't been convinced, if you were dithering, I think Amelia has surely convinced you. But it does show you about what opportunity comes up. You know, I mean, obviously the Queen's death and you know, major court cases, you can never predict what's going to happen when you're working in a newsroom. But as a young journalist starting out, what you can be assured is during your time at 9, really significant things will happen, and you're going to be there, you know, as history is made. And you know, you can, you know, you'll also be given the opportunity to sort of look for your own stories. And you know, Amelia exemplifies the best in a young journalist for taking that opportunity. Now, Amelia, I still feel sure that the folk out there, though, really want to know some more tips from you, because clearly I think we can be pretty confident, and having seen your work in at the Walkley Foundation, I know you can spell, and I know you're extremely organised. So those things obviously were things that came through in your interview. But what tell us about the process for you, and particularly the interview part of it, because I know that can be a bit scary.
Yeah, I'll definitely attest to that. It was quite terrifying in the lead up. And I remember shaking a little bit, like I was a little bit nervous having to hold my hands, because I was wanting to make a good impression, as anybody would be doing at that point. And also I really wanted it by that point. So I think it showed that I just really cared about it.
That's a good point, Amelia. That's a really good point. Saying you really want it, we want to help people who really want it.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you know, you always hear that nerves are good, but it's definitely true. And I think that you've almost got to harness that to your advantage. And so if, you know, show that you really want it, and be personable and be yourself and be confident, you know, in the stories that you want to tell and the direction you want to go. Don't second guess it. So, you know, for me, I knew I wanted to go into broadcast. So I made that very, very clear in my interview. I knew the stories I wanted to tell. I knew the journalist that I aspired to be like, and I made that very clear as well. So I had I had an idea of, I guess, what I wanted my future to look like. And so I used that in the interview. But I think throughout the whole process, it's just being true to yourself. So I know everybody says it and it's a cliche, but really, I think the judges will see through if you're trying to say something that they want you to say, not what you actually, you know, what you, I guess, really mean. So be yourself. As I said, be confident in your abilities, and don't worry if you don't have a lot of experience as well, because I can speak for myself personally. I didn't have a whole lot of industry experience coming into this, but it's a perfect opportunity to gain that experience, that firsthand interactions with people in the newsroom, and then build from there.
And what about the written part of the application? Obviously, people are working on that now. What did you do in yours?
Yeah, definitely. So So yes, grammar and spelling definitely is somebody who's a little bit, I guess OCD. I checked it about 60 times, I think, before I submitted, and got my parents to check it as well, because I just wanted to make sure everything was okay. I think with my application, I know you can submit some work for it. And so I tried to choose different formats of what I'd done. So I submitted a podcast, I submitted a package I put together just throughout my university degree, and I also submitted a written online story as well. So I tried to be diverse and show that I'm able to, I guess, apply my skills and my knowledge to different platforms. But I also chose stories that were, you know, slightly different to each other as well, to show that I've got a keen interest in a few different areas. So yeah, and I think as well in the written, it's really hard because you're not having that interview with somebody. So you've got to try and get over, I guess, through words, how much it means to you, how excited you are, how passionate you are and eager you are to make it in the industry, and be personable as well. So I did include, you know, things about my life away from journalism too, to try and make, you know, people who are reading it on the other side or in another state connect to me as a person.